We interrupt our program to bring you this important message.
Hello, Tig.
Hello, Eric.
This is Eric.
And this is Tig.
You're listening to the Nerd Out With Me 90s cast, and we're here. We're here.
The attic.
Yeah, as we...
In the sweltering Jersey swamp weather attic.
I wouldn't call this sweltering.
Well, it's now.
It is muggy, but it is not sweltering yet.
Not yet.
We probably need to record as much as we can in the next couple of weeks, because come July and August, we will not want to be up here.
You can't
whatsoever.
survive.
No, definitely not. Which is funny because we're talking about how sweltering it is. Meanwhile, we're actually going to be talking about stuff from November of 1990.
Oh, the irony.
As people know, we are on a 120 episode journey through the 1990s. Each week we deliver you another month in this journey. So we started in January 1990. Now we're in November. We're just going to keep trucking.
And then December.
Yeah.
And then it switches to January.
Thursday at my... Right? I'm trying to remember...
Is that a song?
Saturday, Sunday... I'm trying to remember the words to that Friday song.
Friday, I'm in love by the
No.
Cure.
Oh, no. Yesterday was Thursday, today, it's Friday.
Oh
Gotta get down with Friday.
God.
Everybody's looking forward to the weekend. You know what I'm talking about.
I do.
So, we are Eric and Tig and Eric from Nerd Out With Me. You can find us at nerdoutwithme.com. And you can write to us at nerdoutwithmeshow@gmail.com, which is swell. Swell. This week we're going to be talking about... We had a wealth of options.
Yeah, this was a tough one because we had to narrow down the topics because there was a lot of stuff going on.
Yeah, we probably had like 8 or 9 potential topics. And, we want to keep focus here. So we had to narrow it down.
Good luck.
There's a couple things we're going to be skimming past. So this week we're going to talk about one of the most infamous sequels of geek movies, Predator 2.
Yeah.
We're going to talk about the final episode of Pee-wee's Playhouse, which aired in November of 1990. And we're also going to talk about, this is actually pretty interesting, in November of 1990, the earliest known portable digital camera was sold in the U.S. I feel like that's the dawn of a new era.
I am surprised.
Yeah, so that's what we're going to be talking about in this week's episode. And in our bonus episode for Patreon subscribers, and for those of you who don't know, if you go to patreon.com/nerdoutwithme, you can subscribe to our show and you get all sorts of cool bonus content, including an episode just for subscribers, a second episode each and every week, plus a raw video feed of us recording these things. Hi, people who are actually torturing yourselves by watching this thing. That raw video feed is in addition to the YouTube video versions of these, right? Because we put out trunked, shortened YouTube versions of these.
Yeah, edited to stop that part right there that I did from appearing.
Were you messing with the mic and me scratching my nose?
And me going...
Well, yeah. But in our bonus episode, we're going to have on Tom Torre, the Copernicus Nerdicus, master of all things nerdy retro video games from Long Island, on with us to talk about the Japanese debut of the Super Nintendo and the release of Super Mario World. So that's going to be pretty cool.
That'll be awesome.
Yeah, definitely. So let's take a break and get to it.
Yay!
Oh, you waited for that, didn't you?
Oh, hell yeah!
You always need to come in crunching. I don't understand it. I do not understand it. So, November 1990, Predator 2 was released. This was the sequel to the, I'd say, fan favorite Predator. It was sort of an 80s action sci-fi classic, and to some extent, Jesse the Body Ventura and Arnold Schwarzenegger and so on. This movie, Predator 2, was nothing like it.
No.
Didn't have, it was barely related to it whatsoever, with the exception of the fact that the guy who played the Predator reprised his role. Otherwise, this one brought in Danny Glover, Ruben Blades, Gary Busey, Bill Paxton. Yep.
And
And
is my favorite of the two.
so the first one was sort of started as a Vietnam movie with a bunch of weightlifters in the jungle carrying around giant machine guns, and they encounter this alien who can cloak and who hunts them. And so it's a shoot 'em up in the jungle with an alien with magic cloaking powers. He's like a hunter, right? The alien.
Yes.
That's what the Predator is.
As long as you have to have weapons.
That's right.
He won't hunt you if you're not like a legitimate,
Yes.
worth it, if you will.
That's right. So Predator 2, what is Predator 2?
So Predator 2 takes place in what, 1990? Well, no. What year does it take place in?
97.
Okay, it's supposed to be the future.
Los Angeles is suffering from both a heat wave and a
it's real
turf war.
hot. I remember everybody's hot.
Yeah.
Everybody's covered in sweat.
It's a turf war between Colombian and Jamaican drug cartels. A predator watches a shootout between the police and Colombians, observing as Lieutenant Michael R. Harrigan charges into the firefight to rescue 2 wounded soldiers and drive the Colombians back into their hideout. So that's how it opens.
Here's the thing. Any movie with Danny Glover, like a pissed off, sweaty, I've had it cop, is freaking amazing.
More victims, more mutilation. Fuck you.
No, yeah, Danny Glover's awesome.
And I think because the reason this one's my favorite over the first one is because the first one, when you first see it, is great because you don't even know what you're expecting. Like you said, it starts off as one thing and it turns into another thing.
Right.
They run into this thing while they're trying to do something else. Where this is just straight up like you know what's coming.
Right. Yeah, the Predator is out there and yeah.
And there's and in this movie, because I know you said you haven't watched it in a long time.
I haven't watched it in a really long time.
But in the second one, my favorite part is the end, because what happens is Danny Glover gets on the actual ship, so there's this like reveal. There's more of a reveal of what the Predator was in the second one than the first one. The first one, you're like, it ends and you're like, the fuck was that? Like, what was that still? Nobody really knows.
Right.
In the second one, Danny Glover like fights them on the ship, and there's that big reveal where he finds like the old Western gun.
Yeah, right.
And you realize, oh, these guys have been like coming back here.
Like
They've been,
they're like trophy hunters. Yeah.
And you see an alien skull in their collection of skulls in the background.
Right, which of course prompted the crossover movies.
Yeah, which was like huge, big deal. So those two things.
That is kind of a really fun Easter egg that they threw in there, and it's kind of neat that they use that Easter egg and to create movies.
This whole another.
Of course, they're not canon. Alien vs. Predator movies are not considered canon.
No.
No, they do not count in the Alien universe.
Really?
Yep.
Now, why? Why?
They have just declared that no, they're not actually canon. They're just fun side movies.
Wow.
Yeah, they did comics before the movies.
So before they had Alien Predator comics before the second movie.
No, before the Alien vs. Predator movies.
Okay.
It started off as a comic series.
Right.
But yeah, and then they made them into movies and stuff. But yeah, they just sort of declared that no, the Alien vs. Predator movies are not official canon in the Alien universe.
I'm curious, and I'm sure we can figure it out while we're talking, how that happened.
What happened?
Like, at what point was that decided? Like, when they were making Predator and the prop guys and the set design was doing it, at what point did they go, we're going to put, like, an alien skull in the back? Did they consult? Did they, like, consult the what's his name? What's his name with Alien? The guy.
Giger.
Yeah. Like, did they, like, say something to him? Did he know? Did he find out later and, like, chuckled at it?
Well,
it's one of those funny little things that, like you said, it happens very quick in the movie. And people, like, noticed it when you first, it's an alien head with all the skulls, blah, blah, blah. But I wonder how much thought was put into it and how much was,
Well, the thing is, there's if you remember, there was a bunch of different alien skulls.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, but all the other ones aren't connected to anything, right?
I think they're all just identified. I don't think they're unidentified. I'm sorry.
Right, they're all unidentified except for human skulls and an alien skull.
Right. Yeah. I don't know. I don't know. I can't. And I'm looking right now. Can't find anything immediately that says that there's a story behind it, other than, some prop guy said, "Hey, this would be cool.
Yeah, right.
Let's throw this in there." Because that sort of thing happens.
Right. Someone's a fan of Alien. They said it would be great to kind of stick that on there to make it look like...
Usually you get it between friends. Steven Spielberg and George Lucas have been going back and forth with that sort of thing for years. You had the E.T.s in The Phantom Menace.
Right.
You had R2-D2 in both Indiana. It was in Indiana Jones and all the Star Wars.
Oh, and Indiana Jones is the name of in Temple of Doom. It's Obi-Wan is the name of.
Right. And in E.T.
Was it a gremlin? What is the stuff?
No, the Star Wars figures.
Oh,
the kids are
all
playing
over
with Star Wars figures
right.
and stuff like that. So yeah, I mean they've been going back and forth with stuff like that for ages. I think it's interesting that you like this one better than the original, because I get the vibe that this one is becoming more and more like a cult favorite among people.
You know how a lot of things you enjoy are influenced by how many times you've seen them.
Right.
Like when you were a kid, Predator 2 was on all the time. When I was a kid, whatever it was on HBO, or someone had a bootleg version of it, whatever it was. Mm-hmm. But that was the one I've seen more, which probably means that's like the whole Temple of Doom thing. I like Temple of Doom a lot, but I also seen it more than the other two. The other two.
Right.
I don't count the fourth one.
Yeah, I saw Predator 2 once, and I remember thinking.
Did you see it like on TV as a kid, kind of thing?
Yeah,
okay.
Yeah. And I remember just thinking, like, this is dumb as shit. That was my reaction. I was like, this is dumb as hell.
Now, were you already a fan of the first one?
Yeah,
Okay.
I enjoyed the first one. Yeah, I definitely enjoyed the first one. Now, this is interesting.
It's the second half. Didn't mean to cut you off, but this is the second half of Predator 2 that I love.
Right, because in the first half, there's a lot of it's a lot of the street crime stuff.
Yeah,
and
it goes on for the first half of it is like it's too much build up.
Alien in the city.
Yeah, they almost tried to mimic the first one where it was like this is all the stuff going on, and then eventually the Predator gets involved.
Right.
But the second half of it is great.
Right.
But go ahead.
Now, Dan, did you realize that in 2010 they made another sequel called Predators?
I remember Predators. I remember it coming out.
Adrian Brody, Topher Grace, Lawrence Fishburne, Danny Trejo.
What's the premise of that movie?
This was the third installment of The Predator.
And where does that take place?
Royce awakens to find himself parachuting into an unfamiliar jungle, Mexican drug cartel, etc. Sorry, so it's something like that. And apparently, now here, look at this. A sequel, The Predator, is set for 2018. Apparently, there's a Predator movie coming out next year. Who knew?
The titles are... By the way, the titles...
They don't make any sense.
Predator 2. Predators. Yeah. Predator. Like, how confusing.
Yeah, obviously the title is sort of an allusion to the aliens of the Alien series. But The Predator as the fourth one, that doesn't make any sense at all. Whoa! But The Predator is going to be directed by Shane Black. Come on, you know Shane Black.
I do not.
Oh, I don't know. He only wrote a little movie called Lethal Weapon.
Okay, but he wrote Lethal Weapon, and is that the last thing he did? Last
Boy Scout, Last Action Hero, Kiss Kiss Bang Bang. What are you even talking about?
This is my problem with Predator. Great movie, first one is great. I never said it. I love the first movie. Second one I love too. But at some point you gotta stop because like the story itself.
Oh, I agree. There's
what are you doing?
There's not anything there to. There's not anything interesting.
There's no like. There's nothing happening that's gonna shock you.
All you can do is just do the same thing again. It becomes like a Friday the 13th sort of thing. Teenagers go into the woods, have sex, and Jason kills them.
That's what aggravates me about it. Is like they're just coming out because they're like, it says Predator, so we'll make $40 million. So do it under $40 million, and we'll make money off it.
Yeah. No, I agree. There's not there. Yeah. There's nothing to do with it. Yeah. No, I agree completely.
It's a money grab.
Yeah. No, I agree completely. So, all right. We're gonna move on to segment number 2, and I feel like sort of interesting. The dawn of digital photography.
Yeah, that'll be It'll be something.
It'll be something.
Well, I'm sure we'll tail off into something.
Who the hell knows? We'll be back in a minute.
photography has changed a lot during the past 20 years. Cameras are now smaller and less expensive. While the equipment has changed, the process of developing the pictures has changed little. With this camera, you take your pictures and you send the film to be developed. In the future, however, you may use a camera like this one. There is no film, and when you want to see your pictures, you simply take them to your computer.
So, June of 1990, I think this is an interesting footnote in history. The first digital camera aimed at consumers hit the market in the United States. The digital photography actually has a history that goes back to the 1960s, at least in concept. In 1961, the idea of digital photography was born, and sort of the idea from Eugene Lally was conceived of, the idea that, hey, you could take pictures digitally. This is something that could happen.
In the 60s.
In the 60s, at least conceptually. It took a long time for the concept to actually even,
Well, I can only imagine the storage
right.
was an issue.
Well, I mean, everything was an issue, just even creating the technology. Even by 1972, a guy named Willis Adcock with Texas Instruments conceived of a filmless camera. Camera that doesn't use film. That's what filmless means. Did you know that?
No.
I didn't think you did. but technology still wasn't there. So the first electronic camera was finally developed in 1975 by Steve Sasson.
Oh yeah, Steve Sasson.
Sasson.
We used to hang out.
Sasson.
He also created the jeans, right?
Wasn't that a big
Sasson was like
shampoo
jeans?
brand?
Was it Sasson?
Oh, maybe it was jeans. Maybe it was.
Sasson. Like French jeans or something?
Something like that.
They're real tight.
In 1986, Nikon in Japan introduced the first DSLR camera. But then finally, in June 1990 in the United States, the Dicam Model 1 came out. This was dubbed the Brownie of the personal computing set by the New York Times. It was the first digital camera to reach the U.S. consumer market. It was $600 in 1990, which was pretty expensive. And
okay.
It only took black and white pictures at 376 by 240 pixels. Didn't exactly sell very well. But
black and white. And
Black and white.
how many pictures could it take? It doesn't say.
Yeah, it did say the storage, but certainly with these early cameras, they weren't able to store any more than a roll of film would at the time.
Right.
But it was certainly the dawn of a new era, because taking pictures in 1990 was much different thing than it is today. People take for granted the idea that you could just take pictures all the little day.
I know we sound like old farts, but honestly, it's one of those things I feel like that people of a certain age don't really understand what it used to be like.
It used to cost a lot of money to take a lot of pictures.
And first off, right off the bat, before digital, the pictures you took were like you were like, look, we got 32 pictures. We're taking these pictures. You weren't just like snapping 1,000 pictures and going, hey, we'll throw out whatever. You're like, I got 32 pictures. This film cost a certain amount of money. It's going to cost a certain amount of money to develop them.
Right.
If half of them are shit, you just wasted how much money developing these crappy pictures, so you better all stand together and smile.
Right. This sort of quality to crap ratio was actually a little better because you were making sure your pictures didn't suck.
Right. And I understand that now, in a weird way, you get better pictures now, though, because you can take so many.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, anytime you're going to take a picture of something, right, you take 10.
Right, and then you pick out the best one.
Right.
It's kind of a weird...
Which is the way pros did it back in the day, but that's why you paid the money that you did, because you were paying for their film.
Yeah, you were paying for the film.
Yeah.
They had, when we were kids, I don't remember when 1 hour photos came, but there was like 3 hour photos. But when we were kids, like that was a thing. Like your mom or whatever would have to drive to some little booth in a mall parking lot.
Yeah, drop off the film. Wait a few days.
Yeah, and be like, and it was like when you got your film back, it was like a big deal. It came in that folded sleeve, and there was like they'd always give you the negatives. That no one knew. They were like, "Oh, hold on to the negatives."
I still have loads of negatives from that time. I remember one of the great tragic stories of my life. One of the worst things to ever happen to a human being, ever really. I mean, you think back to Pol Pot and the great tragedies, you know,
The Trail of Tears.
oh yeah, it's right up there with it. I had I remember one summer, I think it was the summer after I graduated from high school. I had one of these. What was it? Remember the long style cameras? And they didn't have the 35 millimeter film. They had this cartridge thing that went in there.
Wait, the long cameras with also long flashes.
You could if you wanted
those
to. Yeah.
big giant flash bulb things.
Yeah. I don't remember what, you know, like. But I had one of them, and I would used to bring it around with me keep it in my car. And during that, you know, I'm living that summer after high school summer, you know, that we all have, where it's your first taste of, I'm entering the adult world now. So I was taking pictures all summer long. I had these 3 rolls of film that I had taken of, I don't know, whatever, various, you know, probably beach pictures and surfing, because I used to surf at the time, and like whatever else. Left the 3 rolls of film in the back of my car, and they melted in the summer. And I will never forget that.
Were they in the canister, the black canister?
They were in the black canister, yeah, but they still
melted.
Yeah, I remember the little black canisters. But yeah, the film got killed, and I was never able to develop, and I was always like, the pictures that I lost. You know?
The pictures you lost that you never got to see.
I never even got to
because back then you didn't even know what the hell you were going to get back. That was like the weird mystery of taking pictures too. Now with digital, you know, like you could see it you could see them instantly. Mm-hmm. Back then you were like snapping pictures and you're like, let's see how many of them worked out.
Yeah.
We have 32 shots. 8 of them were bad. Ah, shucks.
Sometimes you get double exposures, and you get like that's where you get weird stuff like ghost pictures and all that.
It was like a crapshoot. Taking pictures was a crapshoot until, you know, the dawn of digital, where you got to see what you were doing.
Well, and I'm sorry to interrupt, but do you remember also in the early days of digital cameras, people would take their pictures with the digital cameras and still go get them developed?
Oh yeah, that was a huge deal. I don't like that all pictures are digital nowadays. Like, I could go to my parents' house and I can literally hold, you know, a freaking picture in my hand of me as a kid.
When you have the picture, like, this is it. This is all I have.
Yeah.
It's this picture. The picture is special because it's that physical thing is all you have.
Okay, is that a weird thing because of us being older and we're being nostalgic?
With some younger folks, if you gave them like a picture that they like in a framed in a like a physical version,
right.
that picture would become more special to them. It would become cherished to them.
That's what I mean.
To some extent.
I think digital pictures have their ups and downs, like you were saying, where there's sort of a downside is there's so many pictures now.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I mean, I will say, I'll say this, like having to shoot on film made me a better photographer. I know that a lot of quote unquote real photographers, the folks who are interested in the art of photography, still swear by film.
I was gonna say I know a lot of people like the look of it, right?
Yeah.
There's something about it's sort of like the argument of listening to music on a record compared to a CD or digital. There's some sort of,
like when you film a movie, you get the film grain,
right?
Which some directors will actually put it like when they'll film digitally, but then add the film grain later, which is kind of hilarious. I find it funny. And granted, I made this mistake when I first discovered it as well. That's all often people are shocked when they'll see a really high-res version of a photo that was taken in the 20s or 30s or whatever, and they'll be like, I didn't know that. Like, that looks almost high def. I didn't know cameras could do that. And it's like 35 millimeter is higher def than any of our high def cameras now.
I was just watching on Netflix the original Star Trek.
Mm-hmm.
My wife sat down while I was watching it, and she's staring at it, and she goes, "This isn't high def?" And I'm like, "What do you mean? I can see the pores on, like, you know, Spock's face. I could see his ears are fake. This is like high def." And I'm like, well, of course it was shot on film. Like, it looks beautiful, but the TVs were a poor quality. The broadcast was crappy.
The 35 millimeter cameras have a resolution that still right now far exceeds, you know, what we're doing digitally.
It captures so much color and all the
depths is astonishing.
It was the broadcasting that was bad.
This was a long segment, Tig. We gotta call it quits on digital photography.
That was fun.
Yeah, but next segment we're going to be talking about the last episode of Pee-wee's Playhouse, so that's pretty cool,
nice.
right? All right, so we'll be back in a minute with Pee-wee. Welcome back to the... Oh, we can't do that. We did that.
We've done that before.
We have done that before, yeah. When, probably, actually, I think just a couple weeks ago. Not a couple weeks ago to us, but to the listeners, maybe a couple weeks ago. Because, you know, our recording schedule is odd. So, I think this is... Wait a minute. Wait. Did I goof up?
Uh-oh.
Wait a minute. This can't be right.
This episode is brought to you by Cheez-Its.
Well, yeah. Well, we're gonna need to talk about it regardless then.
Okay, but what was it that you thought that...
Well, so on one list, the final episode of Pee-wee's Playhouse was aired in November 1990.
The final episode?
The final episode.
Wait, Pee-wee's Playhouse, the TV show for kids?
Correct.
Okay.
Because it began in 1986, as you remember.
Okay.
But Wiki is telling me it ran to 1991.
Well, maybe the last one was like January or something like that.
Let's
or it
check,
was just repeats on until...
check the episode guides. Yeah. See, okay. So the series overview was saying, the last aired November 17th, 1990.
You know what I've learned from doing research for this show?
You never do research.
No, I did actually. Today I was researching for Bonk
Okay.
Adventure. And it's ridiculous because you can't get a set date when that game came out.
Well, Bonk is a very special thing.
And it was when it was on TurboGrafx, it came out in Japan, it came out in North America, on PC, and nobody has seems to have a set date for.
Oh yeah, some of the game stuff gets super obscure. So anyway, all right. So I guess we're fine. Sorry about the little tangent. Maybe I'll cut some of that out. As anyone who grew up in this era knows, Pee-wee's Playhouse was a quote-unquote children's show starring Pee-wee Herman. Started in 1996, ran through 1990. It was on Saturday mornings. It was a live-action show, Pee-wee and all his various puppets and stuff. And hey, wait a minute.
Yeah,
we recorded an episode with, what was his name? Baloney guy?
Billy Baloney?
Billy Baloney,
with
yes.
Special guest Brainy Bryan.
Yeah, that's
with his
right.
Ventriloquist collection.
Yes, ventriloquist dummy collection, and one of them was one of Pee-wee's dummies from there. The show ran for years. It was actually a huge critical hit and a cult favorite. It was supposedly a kid's show, but I think it was more popular among adults and older people.
Well, here's the thing, minus the movie. Do you remember the HBO special, Pee-wee Herman?
Yeah, oh yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because that's what the show is based on.
That's what it came from, yes.
But that was not a children's special.
No, Pee-wee Herman didn't begin as a kid's character.
It was an adult. It was an older man playing a child.
Right. It was meant to be, he was like a proto Adam Sandler to roll us back to something that we recorded for June. I'm getting my timelines all mixed up here for the June Patreon bonus episode. But yeah, he was playing a childlike character, but it was intended for adults. I mean, even Pee-wee's Big Adventure, that was in 1985 that came out.
Right.
And
it was and
Big Top Pee-wee was in 88.
It was Pee-wee the movie. I don't know what the TV show was, but what's his name played a character on it. But Phil Hartman was one of the big writers.
Yeah,
and he was also in the HBO. I think it was originally an HBO special, right? Because that's what I remember it being on. Pee-wee's Playhouse.
Yeah,
Phil Hartman was the captain. He played the. I remember they had a skit in the original the adult version on HBO where he has a picture of a mermaid.
Yes.
And she has no breasts, and he says, "What two things are missing on this mermaid, Pee-wee?"
Yes.
And he's like, "I don't know." And he says, "A watch and blah blah blah."
So here a little history. In the 1970s, Paul Rubens joined the Los Angeles-based improvisational comedy team, the Groundlings, who of course everyone knows was in a comedy, and remained a member for 6 years, working with Bob McClurg, John Paragon, Susan Barnes, and Phil Hartman. Hartman and Rubens became close friends, often writing and working on material together. Rubens wrote sketches, developed his improvisational skills, and with Hartman, he developed the Pee Wee Herman character. Hartman was later brutally murdered by his wife.
Wow, that whole story. I just watched that on YouTube. That always kills me, man.
I might have thrown that last sentence in there. It is factual, though. He really was, and it's awful.
Story.
Yeah, terrible loss. In 1977, the Groundlings staged a performance in which its members created characters one might see in a comedy club. This is interesting. And I actually did not know this history. Rubens decided to play a guy that everyone immediately knew would never make it as a comic, partly because Rubens couldn't remember jokes in real life. He had trouble remembering punchlines and couldn't properly piece information in sequential order. Pee Wee Herman was born that night. His distinctive guttural "heh," followed by a low "heh" laugh became the character's catchphrase, as did his insult comeback. What was it?
I know you are, but what am I?
That's right. I know you are, but what am I?
I know you are, but
Yeah.
what am I?
So,
Infinity.
Pee Wee Herman's signature gray Glen plaid suit was originally a custom-made suit that Rubens had borrowed from the Groundlings director Gary Austin. The small red bow tie was given to him by an acquaintance. Pee Wee's later checkered clothing and persona were largely lifted from manic 1950s TV host Pinky Lee, and Pee Wee eventually masturbated in a movie theater. Oh, I might have accidentally added that in too.
Ridiculous that he got in trouble and like almost ruined his career for such a stupid thing.
Well, I mean, it was
in
an adult theater though, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. So let's not get into that yet. Maybe at least yet. November 17th, 1990 is when Playhouse for Sale aired. That was the final episode of Pee Wee's Playhouse, and the synopsis goes, with Pee Wee out, Miss Yvonne finds finds a for sale sign outside the Playhouse and immediately assumes that Pee Wee is going to sell the Playhouse. Miss Yvonne and the Playhouse puppets all reminisce about the good times around the house in this clip show. The last episode was a clip show.
Because they probably didn't know it was going to end.
That could, yeah,
it's
that
like
could
one
be.
of those like crappy endings where they're like, you're canceled, and then they just...
Now, you remember each show had a secret word?
Yes.
You know what the secret word was for the last episode?
Cancel.
Word. It was word. And Miss Yvonne actually obtains the word in that episode. Now, what happened when somebody got the secret word? That's right. And all the stuff on the wall would go. Now, one of the awesome things about Pee Wee's Playhouse was that the set was dense with stuff.
Oh, God, yeah.
Like, we have, in doing Hours in the Attic, which used to be the title of the Nerd Out With Me show, I think we sort of eventually dropped that kind of. But our YouTube show, we've always tried to have like stuff in the background and and on our table and stuff like that, and rotate it and just have lots of stuff. Maybe subconsciously inspired by something like Pee Wee's Playhouse.
I wish they did a documentary just on like the set design. I always find that interesting. Like somebody who was in charge of the set design, his set and the characters and everything. That was such a great show. I have actually all the episodes on DVD.
The thing that I remember striking me, I watched the show and I enjoyed it, but like I was surprised at how much adults loved it at the time. I was a kid. I was young at the time.
Right.
A kid or an older kid.
Yeah,
but
we
like,
would have been just in high school.
Adults loved it. Like my old man and his friends loved the show.
Because
loved the show.
Paul Reubens was great at subversive adult humor.
Mm-hmm. Did you watch the revival on Netflix from last year?
Okay, yeah, but I did watch it, and it was good. It was good for nostalgia reasons.
Yeah.
He did a couple throwbacks to things, and there's like a funny balloon scene where he's making these sounds with like a balloon for 10 minutes, and it's ridiculous.
That's cool. I like annoying humor.
Yeah, like that. So it was good, but it wasn't.
I remember seeing I saw the trailer for it, and I was like, wow, when he's actually in character, it barely looks like he's aged.
Oh yeah, they did a great job at making him, and they did do subversive stuff like where what's his name from True Blood is in it. The one character, this guy, he's like this big dude. I can't remember his name.
I don't
right
watch
now.
vampire stuff.
But Pee Wee likes him. You know how in the movie, Dottie likes him.
Yes.
And Pee Wee doesn't. And when you grow up, you realize.
I see. Okay.
You realize, when you're an adult, that there's a reason why Pee Wee doesn't give a crap about Dottie, where when you're a kid, you just think, ew, girls are gross. Because he's a kid.
I never even got that they were trying to imply that.
Imply that.
That Pee Wee was gay.
I don't think they were implying it, but I think that was the the sort of like inside joke with him.
Yeah, but even that I never.
You never got that watching it even as a well in the new one they imply it.
Yeah.
Like this dude comes and he's like, "Come on, Pete, we're gonna go on a trip," and he's like, "Oh, okay." Like he sort of implies it, but doesn't enough to make you think.
Right.
Like he knows all the inside jokes and he kind of sells them in the new one, and it was kind of like less entertaining because of that.
Yeah.
Because he was kind of throwing all the inside jokes in.
It was a little too on the nose.
Yeah. It's almost like they think the audience is stupid. Where I wish they would have made it a little bit more subtle so people said, "Oh, yeah."
Right.
But it was still good. It was still entertaining to watch.
Interesting. No, I think that's pretty cool that this show that people seemingly strangely loved way back when finished up again in 1990. Still, people love the character, and still people love the show.
Did you like him as much? Like, did you like the movie?
Yeah. I mean, I can't say that I was a huge fan, but of course I liked the Pee-wee stuff, especially Pee-wee's Big Adventure was like, you know...
you forget all the stuff that... I mean, Tim Burton got a start. Danny Elfman.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, he was only doing... What's the band before he did that?
Did Elfman get his start?
I mean, he got to start doing movie stuff. I mean, he was with... what the heck is the band that he was in the 80s?
Oingo Boingo.
Oingo Boingo. But Danny Elfman and Tim Burton, which became, Jesus Christ, like everything they do together.
No, you're right. You're right. 85. Tim Burton and Tim Burton and Paul Rubens invited Elfman to write the score for their first feature film, Pee-wee's Big Adventure. So that launched Burton and Elfman.
Yeah, like you don't think that and Phil Hartman wrote most of that movie.
I did not realize that.
I mean, think of the...
That's actually a pretty big deal.
You don't think of the... And think of all the classics music from that movie.
Yeah.
And when I went back to watch it with kids, there are so many goddamn catch lines from that movie that you're like, this started with Pee Wee Herman.
Yeah.
I know you are one of my... I know you are one of mine. Yeah, there's so many that you don't even think about.
You remember that back in the day, like
when you take a picture to last longer?
Yes,
that's him.
Yeah. Remember back in the day, everyone had a Pee-wee impersonation?
Yeah.
Like, I haven't done one in years, so I can't do it anymore. But everyone had one. It was like in living in New Jersey, like everyone had a Jerky Boys impersonation,
right.
Like we were talking about,
yeah.
Or whatever else. Like everyone does that at De Niro.
Right.
So Pee Wee Herman and Robert De Niro are like practically the same.
I'm sure Bobby would love to do that.
That's what they call him in his real life, is Bob.
Yeah, I always hear when they do interviews with other guys, they're like, Bobby.
That's weird. I don't know why, but when we conceived of this show, I did not expect something like Pee Wee Herman to come up in it. I guess, I don't know, just didn't. Or the first 10, 12, 15 episodes, you're going to get a lot of 80s stuff that was coming to a close.
Right.
Because we're getting that, which is, I think, kind of cool. Cause
it's sort of the end of an era.
Yeah, because this whole time, 90 through 90, say 92, 93, was really this cultural transition.
Right.
And it's kind of fun revisiting it. But let's get back to that topic in the final segment. So we'll be back in a moment. The only one, and we're rolling, by the way.
Okay.
The only one I just did edit an episode. No, it was a couple of weeks ago. I think it was August. We did. I started. It's getting hot in here. Whoever the hell that is. Is that Nelly?
Oh,
is that Nelly? I think.
Yeah.
And my improvised timing was off from the actual song. But most of them are so
shockingly on.
Yeah, because I'll edit in the clip underneath us for fun, and it's like, wow, hey, we're right on.
Beer.
The HBO one super impressed me because we were just seriously, folks, we're just hanging out drinking beers, and that's what you do, breaking into the song. So I went, as I'm editing the episode, I decided, let me get the HBO music and stick it behind us.
Often VHS bootleg
stuff. Yeah. And boy, we were spot on.
And I always, because when I edited it,
You were doing like the...
yeah, I was gonna say we had the highs and the lows.
Yeah.
So I was like, holy shit, like we're actually, but it's so ingrained in your brain from hearing it so much.
Yeah, absolutely. So we were talking about before the break, the idea of sort of what this journey has been, even at this early stage. This idea of
A transition between decades.
yeah, and kind of reliving it, like forgetting that a lot of this stuff existed side by side with one another. And to me, that's been one of the fun parts of it so far.
And I don't think it's the same. I don't think it's the same going from 90 to 2000. I would probably say it probably is 70 to 80. Because there's like that disco crap.
You mean 80 to 90? Is that what you meant?
Yeah, I think like the 80 to 90 transition is weird because it's like this like transition of like I always say with the 90s, like it's a transition from like pop and like everybody's having a great time to sort of this like everybody started wearing lots of black, their uniforms and everything had an X in it.
Oh, yeah,
when the 90s hit.
Oh man, I know you have, but to like. We'll deal with some of these in later episodes, but like the commercials from the mid to late 90s, extreme. Oh,
Yeah,
like they're so
everything's
wild and weird and
extreme.
yeah.
And like I always remember in sports, like the 90s is when every sport team started putting more black in their uniforms.
Yeah, that's right.
It was like a weird,
A bunch
like,
of teams did that.
extreme. Like everybody's extreme. Everything's extreme. I don't know why.
And meanwhile, the band called Extreme was doing more than words.
Yeah, it's doing ballads. Playing their instruments in reverse.
Yeah, that was our show for November. We got December left to do. We're going to be recording this tonight, folks. So for you listeners, next week might be a little on the sloppy side. Maybe we'll see.
We're gonna end this year.
Yeah,
in the tank.
That's true. Please write to us at nerdoutwithmeshow@gmail.com. Send us your comments. We would love to read them on the air. You Patreon folks can listen to the bonus episode, which is going to be about the Japanese debut of the Super Nintendo and the Japanese release of the Super Mario World game.
And that would be with special guest.
That's right.
Tom Torrey.
Also known as
Copernicus Nerdicus.
Copernicus Nerdicus.
Let's Suck on YouTube.
That's right. Check them out. We're gonna be talking about that stuff. And you listeners who check that out, you can also get our number so you can leave us some voicemails so we can play them on the air. So that would be neat. Find us at nerdoutwithme.com. You can also find us at Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook, all /nerdoutwithme.com. And of course at Patreon /nerdoutwithme.com, where you can support us by buying us the beer that gets us tipsy.
If you enjoy the drunk episodes.
That's right. And also helps us pay for the hosting and all that other sort of good stuff. So I have been Eric.
And I used to be Tig.
Occasionally. We've been Nerd Out with Me. Thanks for listening along. See you guys next time.